In the words from Freddie Mercury from Queen, it's a beautiful day, the sun is shining, and we're feeling good, and no one's gonna stop us now from having a successful 2021 Earth Day show. Good afternoon, I'm host Joey Colbert. Alongside me to my left is my co-host Jacob Timian. How are you doing today, Jacob?
Pretty good. It's as you said, it's a beautiful day outside, and it's just a great day for this Earth Day broadcast. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, what are you looking forward to today throughout this 2-hour show?
Oh man, I think a lot of the different topics that we have on these different stories dealing with mental health, how being outside can help you with your mental health overall, and just your mental well-being and your physical well-being overall. So just all these different topics I think that we're going to touch on today. It's really going to be special, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, and last year I was the only one from this group. Pauline Dulang is our producer, but yeah, I'm the only one in this group that experienced Earth Day last year, and it was different from the usual Earth Day MavRadio's done in their award-winning podcast and their show. Last year, I was finishing up my Earth Day story on the Gerald Ford Bird site, and once it was done, COVID-19 hit and everything canceled. We couldn't do a show in the studio. Instead, we came up with an idea to do the show through Zoom, which we kind of incorporated before pretty much everybody else in the news stations like CNN, MSNBC, or whatnot. So yeah, it was a unique experience. I did my story on Gerald Ford Bird site, like I mentioned earlier before the show. And we did our remote on screen. For my story, I was just outside of my porch wearing the same polo as I'm wearing today. That was just a fun remote. I had a good time as well. Jacob, what was your experience through COVID-19?
I mean, I think that it was just very similar to yours. I think it was really kind of just a culture shock, really, because you kind of really see a lot of this stuff in, like a post-apocalyptic world, and it was kind of weird that we were actually living it in person, and just going through all these classes like online. It was really just a different experience, but I think that it just gives you more avenues to be creative in a lot of different ways of doing stuff virtually, as you said, of what you were able to do last year with Earth Day. But, we're back again this year, and we're ready to roll.
Yeah, it just felt different. We had to wear masks and just wherever we go just to be safe, and we're finally getting the vaccine rolling through. Yeah, J&J, Jacob, Joey, we're not Johnson & Johnson, but we got our vaccines. I know for sure I got my second vaccine. Jacob, I know you're in the process of getting your second one.
Yep, on the 30th, yep.
And I'm not sure about Pauline right now. She's good. So yeah, we're getting safe. We're gradually transitioning back to normal. But first, we got an amazing set of stories for you today. 14 different stories from student reporters, from Radio 2 class, from improving the environment to improving our mental health, and just stuff to do in Nebraska, like thrifting and going down to Nebraska City to visit the Arbor Day Farm, and then just ways to eat healthy as in general. But first, we will take a quick break. Coming up next, we will discuss environmental health with reporter Greg Stiskevich. Don't go anywhere. You're tuning in to Earth Day 2021 right here on MavRadio.fm.
You are someone who's ahead of the pack, someone who's smarter than their peers because you've chosen to listen to MavRadio's live Earth Day broadcast.
And we are back with 2021 Earth Day celebration here at MavRadio.fm. To start things off, urbanized society is always growing. And with that, society has to generate more electricity and more cars will be on the road. These things, among many others, contribute to poor air quality, which affects not only those with respiratory diseases, but humanity as a whole. Reporter Greg Stiskevich interviews experts in environmental health to find out what the problem is and what is being done about it.
Spring is here. With it come flowers, rain, sunshine, and something more sinister. This is the time of year when smoke comes drifting across the Midwest from prairie fires in Kansas. The smoke from these fires represents a great threat for public health, especially for those with respiratory disease. The winds carry emissions, which can contain carbon monoxide, particulate matter, according to Kansas's Flint Hills Smoke Management Plan. Lance Avey, meteorologist for the EPA's Air and Radiation Division, ARD, says these burns have the potential to adversely affect air quality in downwind areas, including Lincoln and Omaha.
And it's something that the state of Kansas takes very seriously. They've developed a smoke management plan as part of this process, giving best practices to the landowners and ranchers out there. We work collaboratively with Kansas on this. Kansas works closely with Nebraska in terms of forecasting of certain maybe high air quality impact days and things like that, which has been a big improvement over the last 5 years of collaboration between Nebraska and Kansas.
These prairie burns are a large threat to air quality in the Midwest, but they are not the only one. ARD monitors several other key pollutants, including carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, lead, ozone, and particulate matter. Overall, air quality in EPA Region 7, which covers Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, has been improving in the last few decades due to replacement of old power plants by renewable energy and the rollout of emissions controls, such as scrubbers, which can absorb certain pollutants from power plant exhaust before they are released into the air. These improvements come thanks to state implementation plans, which state authorities draft in cooperation with the EPA, as roadmaps toward improving air quality and reducing pollution. AV says Nebraska is the only state in the region that is currently meeting all air quality standards. Though progress is coming, there are challenges in meeting these standards. Limited resources and budgets often interfere with the complex planning process, and the emission standards grow stricter over time. But through collaboration with knowledgeable and dedicated staff, progress results.
That's really how we get things done, is just by that collaboration and communication between the states is really needed, and that hopefully, and I think it does provide transparency to the public, and I think it sets the stage for continually improving the air quality.
Transparency in public health is important to us all. Dr. Elizabeth Friedman, who works at the Pediatric Environmental Health Specialty Unit at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, agrees.
There's something really important to be said about the expertise gained by experience, and that comes from the people living on the front lines. And my job, as I see it, is to serve them in the best way I can. So when they ask a question about health related to certain exposures, it's my job to find an answer.
Friedman first became interested in the environmental movement during her first residency in Michigan, when there was a major oil spill in Kalamazoo. She later realized that she could combine her passion for solving environmental issues with her medical training, and now works on environmental studies and helps to bridge the gap between the EPA and the medical community and citizens.
I think the most important part there is really this concept around environmental justice and recognizing that, the frontline communities need to be part of this conversation, and in some ways perhaps should be, if not leading it, then part of leading the conversation.
Most concerning, Freeman says, are the rising rates of respiratory disease and neurocognitive disorders that scientists suspect are due to bioaccumulation, the long-term combined effects of numerous small exposures to pollutants. Friedman says it is difficult to scientifically prove that the countless contaminants we are daily exposed to collectively lead us toward health problems. However, she says it is important in public health to operate off of knowing enough about certain environmental threats to act against them, rather than waiting until we rigorously and intimately know about them. We should follow the precautionary principle, which calls for us to avoid poorly understood practices and chemicals until we can be sure they are without risk. Because many of the chemicals now in our environment have not been studied for health effects in humans, we are all taking those risks. The key is to be proactive rather than retroactive, she says. Friedman says the best way to achieve positive change in our environment and public health is to vote, engage in civic society, know where you can ask your questions, read product labels, and realize that your actions have consequences.
For me personally, I'm driven by not specifically interesting subject matter, but by what the community is concerned about and wants to know about. And so the more people speak up, the more effectively we can address these concerns together.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Greg Stoskevich.
Those steps are being taken to educate citizens about environmental health and get them involved in the conversation. The problem is far from solved, but every day more renewable energy facilities are built. And reporter Greg Stoskevich joins us now from Walnut Wind Farm, Iowa. Hey Greg, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing pretty good.
What are some of the worst threats from pollution to air quality, and where do they come from?
So there are quite a few different chemicals and pollutants that can be thrown out there, but from my research, a few of the worst ones that we encounter are nitrogen dioxide, which generally comes from burning fossil fuels or from industry. And then another one that's sort of a result of nitrogen dioxide existing in the environment is ozone, which generally comes when you sort of cook nitrogen dioxide. And
Yeah.
both of those can cause basically respiratory inflammation and difficulty breathing.
How is wind-generated energy better for our air quality?
So basically, if you think of it, of course, to get a wind farm operational, you of course have to make metal and you have to transport those components on trucks. But generally, also from my research, they have a lower long-term carbon footprint of emissions, a lot closer to maybe 0.02 to 0.04 pounds of emissions per kilowatt hour, as opposed to about 1.4 to 3.6 for burning coal for electricity.
And other than pollution, what are some contaminants that people come into contact with every day?
Yeah, so besides pollution and other stuff like that, people are kind of sitting on a lot of problems even in their own houses or their workplace. Stuff like associated with dust, which can contain pollen, or dust mites, which a lot of people are actually allergic to, and pet dander and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important for people with respiratory conditions, but generally anybody with allergies and people in general, just to keep your living spaces clean and try to be mindful about the places you live in.
Thanks for joining, Greg. Thanks for sharing the importance of our environmental health.
Yeah, you bet. See you, Joey.
All right. And yeah, I just remember he's at the wind turbine farm in Iowa at Walnut. I just remember going on Interstate 80 and you just see all those wind turbines in the crops and grasslands just going to Des Moines, Iowa. That's just memorable. You just living in the heartlands, the Midwest. That's something significant about this location, Jacob.
Yeah, it kind of just takes me really back to my childhood a lot. There are times that when I would travel across the Midwest, just seeing a lot of that as you travel through Iowa and just all those different places. So yeah, it's just a really neat just experience just to get to see all that and just all the things that nature has to offer and the world really has to offer.
We will take a quick break. Coming up next, we will go over climate change with Rashad Watson and then just control burns as well. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 right here on MavRadio.fm.
You're listening to Mav Radio's award-winning Earth Day event. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more ways to help and appreciate the environment.
Welcome back to Earth Day 2021 here on Mav Radio. Climate change is a natural occurrence, so what is it that humans do to disturb the ecosystem? Reporter Rashad Watson tells us what changes are forced to happen when the causes of these changes are largely man-made.
While there are a multitude of components that create climate change, researchers have outlined 4 that seem to be the most impactful to our environment: higher temperatures, declining water supplies, agricultural concerns, and rising oceans. The 1,300 scientists that make up the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change predict the most adverse consequences. Here in the Midwest, temperatures are expected to increase up to 10 degrees over the next century. That means record heat, heavy downpours, and flooding will destroy infrastructure, our lifeblood of agriculture. Even our lakes and rivers will see a significant rise in toxins in water if the path remains unaltered. UNO Professor Grant, with the Office of Sustainability, says she's concerned with the amount of carbon dioxide levels in the state's air.
The climate that we are going into, with the amount of CO2 that we have in our atmosphere, that is an atmosphere that no humans have ever lived in.
She says much of the damage is irreversible, at least in the short term.
Even if everybody stopped driving, stopped burning fossil fuels right now, that CO2 will remain in the atmosphere for an extended period of time, and so we're talking like centuries.
CO2 is a colorless, odorless gas that traps the sun's heat into Earth's atmosphere, causing what we know as greenhouse gases. These gases trap and absorb solar energy and keep it close to the planet's surface. This causes global temperatures to rise, resulting in adverse effects.
The Arctic's heating up more than the rest of the Earth. By altering the Arctic, it sets up kind of like the domino effect of it makes those sorts of events more likely, more severe,
One recent example of an unstable atmosphere is the epic floods that bombarded Houston.
Houston just had an unbelievable amount of rainfall, right? And the hurricanes seem to be moving a little more slowly, and so just kind of hanging out and just dropping tons of rain.
UNO junior Maddie Diedrich calls herself an environmental activist. She believes in limiting her carbon footprint by driving less and conserving energy at home. Saving natural habitats is among her top priorities.
Like some species of animals, their habitats are getting destroyed. Either they can't live there anymore because it's too hot, too cold, or affected by fires or deforestation.
She says it's time for the next generation to reverse the damage that is being done to our climate. She advises a few simple steps like recycling your trash, walking instead of driving, and turning lights off when not in use.
I mean, we should have already been doing stuff a long time ago when scientists started figuring out, like, hey, this isn't normal and this is going to be a problem in the future.
In 2021, scientists with IPCC say the level of greenhouse gases is the highest in history. Once it's present in our atmosphere, it's said to take 300 to 1,000 years to dissolve. For now, Grant says while the battle to stave off CO2 in our atmosphere is uphill, she urges everyone to practice small environmental saving habits every day so future generations can live in a healthy environment.
We definitely, as individuals, can make an impact, for sure. If you can take the bus, bike, walk, if you can switch a few trips up here and there so that you're not driving every time, that has an impact on others around you. Increasing awareness, which hopefully leads to more awareness and more people making better decisions and voting, go back to that.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Rashad Watson.
Climate change is just such an issue. Just temperatures are dropping. It's getting hotter, it's getting colder. The ice caps, North Pole, South Pole are melting. I remember hearing icebergs are just melting, and just curious, like with all the water, it's just gonna spread in the oceans. I'm just looking at predictions on videos, just seeing what's gonna look like in the next 100 years from climate change, and I'm looking at places like Florida getting flooded. I'm hearing threats of that in the future, or the Maldives. That's like a little island nation in the Indian Ocean. That's just, it's just something to look into in the future. Just finding ways to just make sure we keep everybody safe, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, and as you said, it's kind of just been a big topic of discussion really over the last few decades, and just to see how we can do to kind of better ourselves to also better the environment. So yeah, as you said, Joey, it's kind of just a really big issue that has evolved over time, and it looks like that Rashad has joined us live. How are you doing, Rashad?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So how is the Earth essentially getting warmer, and how does that affect our ecosystem?
Well, there's a lot of CO2 that's going into the air. It's usually man-made, and that's really bad. It's impacting our environment. The United States is actually the second largest CO2 emitter in the world. So that is how our climate is getting warmer. It's unnatural. It's because of all the CO2 that's in the air.
So what is causing climate change?
Well, the carbon that we are putting into the air is affecting the levels of the atmosphere. So whenever we are driving, we're constantly putting carbon into the air. So that right there is seeing like absurd things and occurrences come into all over the world. So for instance, in Houston, with the ice storms and the snow, that was unnatural, and that was a part of climate change.
Is it too late to prevent climate change?
Well, it kind of is, because it's already happening. We're in the middle of that now. But what we can do, though, is slow that change and change the direction of it.
All right, great stuff. Thank you for joining us this morning, Rashad.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's just a amazing topic to cover. Climate change is just something we have to consider. And outside of climate change, fires as well. You see the grass fires from the droughts, like in the Midwest. You'll see them in Nebraska and Kansas. Also the wildlife fires in like California, that forest, the redwood. We've been seeing that a lot lately. So for many of us, fire is often associated with danger and destruction. However, controlled burns are gaining popularity as a conservation and wildlife prevention technique. Sarah Quinata discusses what this means for our country's ecosystem, starting right here in UNO's backyard.
Dr. Tim Dixon holds two important roles at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. During the day, he spends his time on campus as a biology professor teaching mainly about conservation. And by night, he is the director of the Turkey Creek Preserve. Located north of Omaha, this preserve is home to many species of animals and a mix of ecosystems. Tim grew up with a fascination for nature.
I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, near a river. There was a park all along that river, and I spent a lot of time in my childhood just hanging out in that park. And at some point along the way, I just realized I really loved, being outside. And if there was a way to have a profession that would allow me to be outside, that was important.
Turkey Creek Preserve is unique because of one of the long-term goals put in place by both Tim and others.
Broadly, it is a plan for restoration of Turkey Creek Preserve, and I could talk about that for an hour, but we are trying as much as possible to bring the landscape back to how it might have looked in, say, the early 1800s. And there's quite a lot of work that goes on for that.
There are many ways to achieve this goal, and one of which is controlled burns, also known as prescribed burns. Tim says that controlled burns are just one of the useful tools in a firefighter's arsenal. This tool can be extremely important because it helps protect the land and also mimic what would naturally happen if humans did not inhabit Nebraska.
It's important for maintaining the historical landscape, and then there are also some plants and animals that are just very reliant on fire, that they have certain parts of their life history where they don't grow as well if there's not a fire. Some plants will actually come back, especially strongly after a fire, and they're much more likely to flower in the year of the fire because they're just adapted to have a lot of energy below ground. There's a fire and boom, they shoot up and they flower.
According to an article in Lincoln's Journal Star, written by Renee Bloom, there are many goals and benefits of prescribed burns. Renee elaborates by saying, quote, "Some of these goals include reducing wildfire hazards, increasing forage nutrition for livestock, creating and maintaining wildlife habitat, and controlling invasive plants such as the eastern red cedar," end quote. Nationally, prescribed burns may not be as effective or as utilized as in Nebraska. Charles Giesler spent his career fighting fires in New England. As a 20-year career firefighter for the state of Connecticut, he experienced almost every type of fire. Nationally, fighting fires is different because of the land, population density, soil, and many other factors. Where Charles was a firefighter in Connecticut, it was more densely populated. In Nebraska, there are often many more open plots of land, especially in western Nebraska, where the population is much smaller. Giesler said that he saw a lot of brush fires in suburban areas, just outside of the city.
I think controlled burns are very important, especially during very dry years. You have sticks and leaves on the ground that are very dry. They haven't composted down much in a dry year, and it takes the smallest spark. For example, being in the suburbs, just somebody parking in front of somebody's house in the fall, if they had a leaf pile in the front of their yard on the road, the car would park, and just the warm muffler was enough to start the leaves on fire and then start the car on fire.
Tim looks forward to the continued growth of the Turkey Creek Preserve that includes getting students involved and excited about conservation. For MavRadio, this is Sarah Quinata.
Dr. Tim Dixon is a great resource for any UNO student interested in being part of the Turkey Creek Preserve or would like to know more about the controlled burn work done there. Reporter Sarah Quinata joins me live at Glacier Creek, another preserve owned by the University of Nebraska at Omaha, to discuss her story and personal connection with this topic. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you guys?
I'm doing amazing. First thing, How did you get interested in the topic of controlled burns?
Yeah, so I was originally planning on doing my story on a different topic, but I was able to reach out to Dr. Tim Dixon, and he told me about his work, and I just got super interested and wanted to learn more.
Can you talk to me about your connection with Charles Giesler, the firefighter you interviewed in your story?
Yeah, so he's actually my dad, so that's a pretty cool connection, and it was really great to be able to talk to him. I haven't really talked to him ever much about his work as a firefighter, so it was really great for him to tell me that and learn more about him.
Before you go, what do you hope comes as a result of your story?
I really hope that more UNO students learn about the different properties that UNO owns, not only Turkey Creek, but also Glacier Creek, because they're great educational resources and great for anyone who may want some volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, and this is very informative. Thank you, Sarah. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's beautiful outside, so enjoy your Earth Day. The issues with trash, from littering across the community or just plastics in general, there's consequences, but there's ways to solve this issue. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 right here on MavRadio.fm.
You're listening to Earth Day, only on MavRadio.fm.
Welcome back to Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm. The Earth as we know it is constantly getting polluted. A main cause to the pollution is littering. Many trash fills parks and streets all over metro areas all across the world. As many people attempt to solve the issue of littering, others do not see it as an issue. Reporter Cade Matsuzaki talks to local Omaha citizens who visit local parks and areas frequently and discuss their views on the topic of littering.
Imagine a pretty lake with the warm sun beaming down on it, causing the water to sparkle. Imagine deer and birds roaming freely and people walking their dogs, riding their bikes, or riding in their boats. At Chalco Hills Recreation Area, all this happens here every single day. Chalco is one of more than 250 parks in Omaha, and it is located between 144th and 156th and Giles. Barbara Roos, who is a regular at Chalco Hills Recreation Area, spends many hours walking the paths in Chalco Hills. Despite the beauty the environment provides, it's also a hotbed for littering.
I feel like littering is pretty bad for the environment. People need to pay more attention to where the trash cans are. It's just pretty lazy if they just don't throw their trash away.
Barbara's views on littering are pretty clear. As she stands against littering, she thinks people need to make more of an effort to use trash cans for the trash, because fines are out there for people who get caught littering, and it's not good at all for the plants and animals in the environment. Barbara says simple tasks like picking up trash you see in the park can lead to big changes for everyone.
I don't usually see that much trash out here. They seem to keep it pretty clean, but every once in a while you will. People should pay more attention because there are fines that you can get for littering. Not to mention it can be pretty bad for the animals that live out there at Chalco.
Trash and littering continue to be a relevant issue in our environment today. As some people throw their trash, it does do harm to the environment. The impact of litter includes trapping or poisoning animals, killing aquatic life directly through choking, and indirectly through its impact on water quality. Littering can be a fire hazard, and it attracts pests and rodents, which can ruin plants and animals' ecosystems.
I can do my part by throwing my trash away and help cleaning up the parks. My daughter actually is starting a club at school to go and help clean up the park.
There are many ways to help solve the problem of littering, and picking up trash and making people more aware of the issue is for sure one of them. People have different views on littering today, and local Omaha resident Bobby Perro definitely does. His views on littering is drastically different than the first subject at Chalco Hills.
I don't think littering's that bad. I do it almost every day, and I see trash all around Omaha, and every time I get fast food, when I finish it, I kind of just throw it out the window. I'm just kind of used to it. My family smokes cigarettes, and I see them just throw their cigarette butts, and my friends will also litter their trash sometimes. So I just see it all the time. I'm used to it. I see a pretty fair amount of trash around the Omaha area. I see pretty much neighborhoods, parks, streets, anywhere I go, I see it.
Trash and litter is more out in the open during this time of year, as winds are higher and leaves on trees and such aren't back yet, so the trash has nowhere to hide. Littering should be brought to the attention of residents more during this time of year because of the trash being out in the open.
No, I don't usually worry about getting caught. A lot of people do it and nothing usually ever happens to them.
While Bobby doesn't care if he gets caught, fines for littering can be hefty. Littering is a Class 2 misdemeanor. Fines of $500 and imprisonment for up to 30 days, or both, are applicable. In addition to penalties provided, litter weighing more than 5 pounds is punishable by a fine up to $1,000.
Cade, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
I'm doing pretty good myself. How much trash and litter do you see on average outside?
You know, it's kind of funny. I was talking to Professor Jodine about it. Ever since I kind of did this story, I just feel like I've been kind of noticing it even more. I mean, obviously I've seen it before. I've done the story, but yeah, ever since I started this story, I just feel like every time I'm out and about, just driving around, wherever, I just see it, kind of just in the streets and whatever. I mean, not an insane amount, but I feel like I see it pretty often just cruising around the metro area or in parks and streets and sidewalks and stuff. Probably almost every time, honestly, I'm out.
Can you see any trash or litter from where you are now?
You know, I feel like Choco does a pretty decent job at keeping their trash cleaned up and stuff, but it looks like kind of down by the water, on the edge of the water a little bit. But yeah, not an insane amount, but yeah, I do see a little bit.
And what are some ways to help with littering?
You know, just like, I mean, the obvious ways, I guess. If you see something when you're out, I mean, maybe try and help. Just pick it up and throw it to nearby trash. I just think making people more aware about it, too, is a good way. So hopefully this story helps with that. And then, yeah, just keeping the word out and spreading awareness of littering and just trying to clean up the environment best we can.
Should there be a large fine for littering?
Yeah, I believe it should be. I got into it a little bit. I believe it's $500 if you do get caught, and then I think if it's like more than 5 pounds or something, it's like $1,000. So yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you get caught, I mean, it should be a little hefty fine.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Cade, here on this Earth Day.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, oh my goodness. $1,000 fine for 5 pounds of littering. That's just crazy. That just tells you, just don't litter. And if you see trash, if you're just walking by, just simply pick it up and find the nearest trash can or recycle bin. And speaking of recycling, have you recycled? Have your family recycled, Jacob?
All the time, yeah. I mean, even at our house, we even have just a huge bin for just recycling itself. So you've listened to in that story, you know, just those hefty amount of fines just for something as simple as putting something in the trash. So hopefully this story just really brings awareness to the issue.
Yeah, and I recycled as well, and it's not always easy, but don't get me wrong, it's not easy for all of us, but it's very important. I mean, it's just determining which is recycle, which is trash. You got cardboard as well, cans. My family's been doing this for probably a decade right now. Reporter Hannah Heiser takes us on a journey to discover how recycling is one thing we can all do to improve the health of our environment. Here's what our very own Fontenelle Forest is planning to do for Earth Day.
Plastic. It's in almost everything we consume. Most often, it's cheap and convenient. However, in the long term, the cost to the environment is arguably the greatest threat to mankind. The reason for this is because plastic doesn't degrade. It sticks around for years. While doing so, it releases toxic chemicals that harm our oceans, waterways, and soil. Heidi Seals, an educator at Fontenelle Forest in Omaha, says changing our habits slowly, like forgoing plastic straws, can make a difference.
Plastic takes almost 450 years to biodegrade, so they really pile up in landfills, and they're unnecessary. I think we've already seen that. People are, a lot of cities are implementing ways to get around that using biodegradable straws or not providing straws in restaurants. I do. I think people will stop using them.
According to the EcoCycle website, U.S. citizens use about 500 million straws daily. These small pieces of plastic floating in the ocean are said to kill at least 1 million marine animals every year. By educating our communities, Heidi hopes to see this number decline.
I think we're on the right path here. I think people are becoming aware that they're dangerous for our planet, and I think that we can work, together to find maybe better ways.
Heidi says she and her crew at Fontenelle Forest lead by example.
We recycle here, and we try not to, we don't sell things that have plastics in them. So.
She goes on to say that the staff at Fontenelle Forest does something fun for Earth Day every year. This year, they are planning on doing an event known as Pliking. It is a day dedicated to cleaning up litter and preventing it from happening in the future.
So in Scandinavian countries, they do a thing called plogging, and it's jogging and picking up trash. And so they also, they created this program called hiking. So you hike and pick up trash, and we're going to be doing it on Saturday at Camp Wakanda, which is part of our property.
Recycling efforts aren't just centered in Nebraska. Jake Thomas says he'd like to see more recycling education in his state of Tennessee.
No, we don't have any recycling at my apartment, so I can't recycle. I wish I could.
Jake has lived in Nashville for almost 2 years and says he's made it a personal mission to reduce his carbon footprint.
Well, I started by not using water bottles anymore. I just reuse a refillable Brita filter every day. So that's a start. I don't drive much because I can work from home now, so I don't burn off as much gas.
Originally from Nebraska, Jake says he sees similarities in the ways the two states and their residents work with recycling.
I say it's about the same, but people don't use as much plastic here. It seems like everybody has reusable water bottles here in comparison to Nebraska because there's a lot more of a hiking scene.
Whether it's plastic bottles, straws, or other disposable plastics, Heidi says we all play a part in limiting our use of these large-scale pollutants.
Plastics and some other chemical industry products can be designed to be biodegradable, so we could work on that.
I'm Hannah Hazer from MavRadio.fm.
By the sound of this, Jacob, I sure want to stop using plastic forever. More than 5 trillion pieces of plastic are already floating in our oceans. Help organizations in your area, like Fontenelle Forest, make a difference today. And Hannah Hazer is actually there right now. Hannah, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. What are you seeing at Fontenelle Forest right now?
Well, it's sunny here right now. There's no snow, thank goodness. And the sun is shining, and it's great.
What special plans do Fontenelle Forest have for Earth Day, and when is it going to be taking place?
Well, as Heidi said in the interview, they're doing an event called Hiking, which is where you pick up trash while you hike, which is pretty cool, I thought. And it falls on a week. Since Earth Day falls on a weekday, they want people to be able to participate in this event, so it's going to be on Saturday, April 24th.
Yeah, and that's a good event, fighting for a good cause, getting rid of the trash and plastics and all sort. Before you go, what message would you like the Omaha community to know about Fontenelle Forest's plan for Earth Day?
I think being able to get outside and hike while picking up trash together is a great way to celebrate this Earth Day. It's important to work together in keeping our environment clean, and I can't wait to see the results this Saturday. If anyone is interested in this event, head on out to Fontenelle Forest in Bellevue, Nebraska.
All right, and enjoy the scenery at Fontenelle Forest. Make sure there's no trash anywhere. Have a great, wonderful day. Have a wonderful day, Hannah. Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
I see those plastics on the Gatorade bottles. I just take them out and you'll see those holes. You just have to rip them out. And that's kind of a hazard for animals because they'll get into them. And every time I take one out, I'll just have to rip them open just to make sure there's no choking hazard. And as well for plastics, my family has started doing plastic recycling. We have a plastic bag and we just throw like plastic wrappers and all of that in the bag, and we just, I don't know where we send them, but we started recycling plastics as of right now. Coming up, we will talk about how children are affected from quarantine from this pandemic. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 right here on MavRadio.fm.
You're listening to Earth Day on MavRadio.
Welcome back to Earth Day here on MavRadio.fm. Being an adult during COVID-19 has been hard enough, but imagine how the youth feels. Minors are feeling their own range of emotions on top of sensing differences with adults around them. Reporter Mars Johnson interviewed a nanny and a developmental psychology instructor about how the COVID-19 quarantine is affecting young people under the age of 18. As a content warning, this story does briefly mention some mental health issues.
There are unique traits to every generation because of the circumstances of the time. Growing up as a baby boomer during the Civil Rights Movement and the start of the war on drugs are a few vital times in American history that the youth watched happen, as well as older generations. Now, we can say that children and adolescents growing up will never forget what it was like during COVID-19. During these phases, adults have a distinctive role to play in ensuring the well-being and education of the youth. Psychology instructor at UNO, Mithra P. Ruse, placed significance on the Bronfenbrenner Ecological Systems Framework to understand how minors develop.
We can bring in Bronfenbrenner's ecological framework. It's a framework where basically we depict it as a series of concentric circles, right?
Bronfenbrenner's theory shows child development as a multiplex system where structures within are divided into microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem in that order. Mithra noted that all facets of people's well-being is intertwined, meaning that your physical, cognitive, and social development all can sway one another. In other words, if one of those are altered, the others may adjust in response to the initial change.
I think it's important to note that, people develop and live as whole people and not separate people.
Rates of depression, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and self-harm have gone up. Lack of extracurricular activities, food insecurity, and simply removing walking to and from classes can affect minors' physical development. Virtual classes can affect their social development. Disparities have increased due to COVID-19 as well. That especially has dire consequences for children who are already without basic necessities. There are minors who depend on free meals from their schools. What adults can do to help the youth avoid panicking boils down to one word: communication. According to Mithra, adults should make sure the communication is simple enough for minors to understand without revealing too much that would scare them.
It's important that parents talk to their kids, have conversations. I think parents need to, as much as they're able to, keep a schedule.
It should also be taken into consideration that the abrupt and lengthy COVID-19 restrictions are hard pills to swallow for minors. That's another reason why communication is so crucial.
A lot of children and even teenagers don't really understand why they can't go hang out with their friends, why they can't go to school, why they can't go to basketball practice, or why they can't, go to prom even.
The somewhat laid-back lives that the youth live are often incomparable to the responsibilities that adults have, but it's still their life. They are not immune to any of these significant changes.
They're also probably changing. They're also experiencing these effects. And so if adults are feeling these things, children and teenagers are undoubtedly going to be feeling that stress too, both directly and indirectly from the parents.
It is vital for parents to be mindful of how they may be negatively affecting their children.
If they have a rough day at work, they're not necessarily leaving that at work. That's going to affect how they interact with their kids.
There is more to worry about than just communication, though. Children who were impoverished faced racial inequalities, had less opportunities, etc. prior to COVID-19, have it even worse during COVID-19. If a parent has to work a lot and is used to dropping their kid off at school during the day, it is very difficult to even attempt to adjust to the virtual classes their kids have to take. Parents can't always stay at home to help their children with schoolwork all day or pay for childcare for someone else to do so. For example, 45% of Black American workers have become unemployed or pushed into working less hours. This is tied to high levels of stress in Black American children. Anti-Asian rhetoric led to a 450% increase in unemployment rates in Asian American communities from February to June 2020. Latinx communities are still disproportionately affected by deportations, which leads many Latinx people to refrain from applying for benefits from the government for fear of being deported. Additionally, not everyone has adequate access to technologies needed for remote learning.
Parents who are, lower socioeconomic status are more likely to have to go into work or work multiple jobs.
Moreover, Mithra suggests that folks should turn off devices at least 1 hour before bed to help with sleep because of how stimulating screens can be. When it comes to specific measures one can take to keep negative effects of quarantining at bay, Mithra suggests that households choose certain times to put their devices away, to play games, or read with one another. When it comes to the good news about COVID-19 restrictions,
the silver lining, the biggest thing is that we're protecting ourselves and we're protecting others by following these guidelines.
But there is still so much we don't know when it comes to the long-term effects of COVID-19 restrictions. It will be a while before we do. A nanny and journalism and media communications undergraduate at UNO, Rebecca Weiss, says,
at the school I work at, we've gone from all in person to 50% to all online, back to, half in person, back to all in person.
Before COVID-19 restrictions, Rebecca remembers primarily working after school, doing minimal tasks like making sure the children she looks after finish chores and homework. During COVID-19 restrictions, she has worked more hours, assisting the children with their online education and keeping them away from their screens as much as possible. Children and adolescents have had to deal with unexpected changes to their education and social life. In turn, many of them have adapted to isolation and independence. There's resistance on many fronts that make it hard for them to operate as well as they used to. It's more difficult to get back into the swing of taking instruction from adults in real life, resulting in moodiness and frustration.
They were so used to being by themselves and knowing how to do stuff that they kind of forgot how to play by the rules at school.
Rebecca puts emphasis on showing respect and trust to the youth in order for a healthy relationship between minors and authority figures, instead of forcing it with aggression. Helping them succeed in their education is of utmost importance to her, whether it's in person or virtual.
It will get better. You just have to, show them the same amount of respect that you want them to show you, and it'll all work out.
I'm Mars Johnson for MavRadio.fm.
There's a lot to think about when assessing how to keep the well-being of minors the best it can be, but it's not exactly simple, as long as we remember that events often don't exist in a vacuum and are interwoven. We can be better at pinpointing what is going wrong and why in any situation, not just when it comes to minors' overall health. And Mars Johnson is joining me live here this morning. Mars, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good myself. So, Mars, what can you tell me about where you are right now?
I'm currently walking on the sidewalk at Dewey Park. And there's a lot of trees around here. I really like coming here. There's a playground, there's tennis courts, there's a dog park, and there's a basketball court.
So, what was the most surprising about your research and interviews?
Well, the most surprising was not only the statistics that you all heard, but also just the idea of when kids have to go into isolation and they're not in school, how they would regularly be. It's hard for them to go back to listening to adults and stuff like that. I thought that was very interesting.
Do you have any personal experience with being around minors during COVID-19?
I do a little bit. I actually have a little sister, so I've seen, I feel like she's been a little more moodier than usual, so that's something I've noticed.
And can you talk more about Bronfenbrenner Ecological Systems Framework?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important to understand that the microsystems aspect of that ecological framework is the most influential, meaning that, the people that are, like, the kids' immediate family, people who are talking to them the most consistently, those are people and things that are going to be affecting their mindset and their way of being the most.
All right, well, thank you for joining me this morning, Mars, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, thank you.
All right, that was Mars Johnson, and Joey, just a really interesting story and just a lot to take in there.
COVID-19 not only impacted children and everybody, it impacted us, Jacob and Pauline. It impacted all of us. Last year we were going into school. I mentioned before the show that I was finishing my Earth Day story, and then we were discussing about what's going to happen. We're seeing this pandemic, and then boom, it just announced they are going to all online. But yeah, it impacted all of us. Not only just going to school and working and all that stuff, it impacted our mental health.
It affected, me personally as well, as you said, just not being able to get out and see people in person like you normally would. It was really just a contrast in really what we're used to. So just very interesting stuff to take in there in that story. And coming up, we will look at how seasonal affective disorder can impact your daily lives, and sticking on the idea of mental health, of how nature therapy can also be good for you as well for your mental health on a daily basis. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm.
You are about to reach cultural nirvana because you're listening to Mav Radio's live Earth Day broadcast, KVNO 90.7 HD2, and Power with Mav Radio.
Now, mental health has been an important topic in our culture and society in the past few years. However, there may be more factors to consider when analyzing someone's mental health. Reporter Rebecca Wise shares with us how more than one factor has affected everyone's mental health over the last year.
In March of 2020, people were hoping for a peaceful spring. Birds chirping, the sun shining. However, it took a nasty turn when we got struck by the coronavirus pandemic. This pandemic affected jobs, businesses, and even mental health. Alex Cole, who is a student at UNO who has been dealing with mental health for years now, explained how the pandemic has affected her depression.
With COVID and everything, some of my symptoms have been a little bit worse, even though I was getting better.
For those that don't know how depression can affect someone, UNO student Maria Buckley, who has majored in psychology, gives a brief description on how some of the symptoms of depression can affect someone daily.
It's feelings of like loss of energy, fatigue. There's just like constant sadness. I think for a consistency of like 2 weeks, that's usually, I think, what qualifies as like diagnosed depression. And it comes in different forms, and it can be like a result of different things. It could be like genetics, or it could be due to something you're exposed to, like in your environment or like your home life.
What some people might not know is that depression can come in many different forms. The most common one is seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as seasonal depression. According to an article written by the American Psychiatric Association, the symptoms usually occur during the fall and winter months when there is less sunlight, but they usually improve with the arrival of spring.
I think it takes a toll, and that's what kind of causes like those feelings of sadness is due to like weather conditions. You're not able to do the things you would normally do.
Even though seasonal depression is its own form of depression, it doesn't mean it still can't affect people with regular depression as well.
I would say I have just general depression, overall depression, but I do notice that like when those winter months come, it gets significantly worse. I don't think it varies that much. I think it varies in how it occurs, if that makes sense. Seasonal depression occurs with the season, whereas general depression might stem, at least for me, it stemmed from another mental illness. So I think it just depends on, it's still depression, it just depends on how it occurs.
Seasonal depression isn't the only thing that can be affecting civilians' mental health. The pandemic has made a difference in people's overall mental health as well.
I think it's had an effect on both depression and seasonal affective disorder because the pandemic, like I said, it's put a lot of like restrictions on what we can do, like what we would normally do. And so no matter what the season is, I think it could like worsen like those feelings of depression.
However, both Buckley and Cole describe methods they know could help people struggling with seasonal or regular depression.
I think it's important. The least you can do is just be like one to listen to them if there's something on their mind. It's important that, you're not like judging them or rejecting them just because they have like these feelings of sadness, because it happens to a lot of us. So it's important that we're understanding and you just have like an open mind in that sense.
At least what helped for me was giving myself a motto. And so what sort of helped me was what if and everything's gonna be okay. The what if statement for me was, what if I get up and do this? And then whatever the outcome is, I try to think of the positive outcomes.
For people out there going through depression or seasonal depression, just remember it does get better, and asking for help is something to never be ashamed of because everyone needs help once in a while. I'm Rebecca Weiss for MavRadio.fm.
If you or anyone you know is experiencing any of the following symptoms, such as fatigue, loss of energy, tiredness, etc., you could be suffering from depression. There are numerous resources available for you to seek help, such as support groups in your local areas, hotline numbers, and lists of therapists that specialize in mental health. Our reporter Rebecca Wise joins us live from Elmwood Park right now. Rebecca, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, Joey. What's up?
Not much, having a great Earth Day show. So to start things off, what are some of the signs people should look for in their friends if they think they could be depressed?
Yeah, some signs you can look for, like I said before, is like fatigue, loss of energy, but also some mood swings. I know a lot of people don't think that would necessarily be one of the effects to look for, but if you notice a friend that is like really happy one minute and then can just like go downright angry the next, like that is one of the most common signs of depression. It's because they don't really know how to handle their emotions that they're going through in the best way right now, so they're kind of just like experiencing them all at once and can't really control. So that's another one. And then really kind of just they don't really have any motivation to finish, schoolwork or do work in general. They don't really want to hang out with anyone. They kind of sort of isolate themselves. So those are just like a few extra signs to look for someone going through depression.
Yeah, and you really tackled on the emotion for just for people just dealing with depression and all of that. Just important to be there to help out with those who need help. What are some of the techniques you believe can help people with seasonal depression?
So with seasonal depression, it's a lot of the same techniques that can be used for everyday depression. But sometimes what I find helpful in the people I know that have seasonal depression is taking a walk when it's nice out, because, like I said in the story, one of the side effects is like during the colder months, they lose a lot of that vitamin D, a lot of the energy and sunlight that makes people happy. So when it is nice out, taking a walk, even if it's just for 10 minutes, taking a walk and clearing your head and kind of just thinking about like what's on your mind, just to like get some of that energy back that you've been missing for months now, can help. Also, doing some yoga, doing some light exercise can really help, because that gets your endorphins going and that gets your energy back up in some of the months that you lose that by, staying indoors because it being so cold and everything. So just some light exercise can really help people with seasonal depression disorder.
Yeah, and you mentioned going on a walk. That is one of the best ways, in my opinion, just to clear your mind and all that. And you got several places to do that. You got Fontenelle Forest, you got Schramm Park south of here, or even your neighborhood. Now let's transition to the pandemic from starting last year. Why do you think the COVID-19 outbreak has such an impact on people's mental health?
I think it had a lot to do with the fact that we were all isolated. And whether you were living on your own, you were isolated from your family, you were isolated from your friends. A lot of people couldn't go to work. So when you have coworkers that you talk to on a daily basis. You're isolated from them. And I think that had a lot to do with it because when you reflect back on those months that you kind of were just by yourself, you didn't really see anyone, you kind of realize how much of an importance it is in like your overall energy and mental health to be surrounded by the people you love and care about. And I think not having access to that really impacted everyone's mental health in the state of mind that like it was kind of like oh my gosh, like I'm cut off from my entire lifeline here. Like I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with being lonely. I don't know how to deal with, not seeing these people every day that I normally would. And so I think people got sad from it. I think people did have like effects of depression going through all of that because it was essentially like you were being cut off from your outside life. And that's a scary thought to deal with, and it was scary to process. So I definitely think that had the most impact from COVID-19 in people's mental health.
Yeah, and isolation is just a huge problem with how the pandemic's treating us. I just think about my grandparents. I haven't seen some of them in a while. I think 8 months with my grandfather is just crazy because he's in an assisted living and they kind of locked down. I think they're opening back up for visits, but it's limited. And then yeah, us college students, we were just dealing with the pandemic. General, not going to class with each other. We're just meeting through Zoom. Yeah. Before you go, Rebecca, why do you think it's important for people to understand the importance of mental health?
You never know what someone is going through. Whether that's your closest friend or a complete stranger on the sidewalk, you really have no idea what everyone could be going through. And for me, to me that's important because I never want to yell at someone in a supermarket just because I'm having a bad day when really they could be having it 10 times worse than me, and I have no idea, and I could totally have an effect on them and I would never know it. And so I think it's important for people to grasp that mental health is a real issue because so many people deal with it, and the fact that a lot of people have depression and they might not even know about it, or even if it's more severe illness, mental illnesses bipolar or I can't think of another one right now off the top of my head. That's just one that comes to mind. So it's such an important issue because you never know what someone is going through, and if you do know someone that is going through the stages of depression or their mental health is taking a bad toll, don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to reach out and help them because chances are they are going to need that help. So that's why I think it's widely important for people to understand how important mental health is.
Yeah, and indeed, there are support groups in your local area, hotline numbers, and lists of therapists that specialize in this program. And Rebecca, thank you for sharing this heavy topic. We all have to hear that. And if there's someone that is experiencing tough times, just be sure to reach out to them, make sure they're okay. And yeah, there's a list of contacts you could talk to. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy Earth Day.
Thanks, Joey.
Mental health is a prevalent issue in our society today. It includes emotional, psychological, and social well-being. But what some people may not know is that one thing that can really help with mental health is nature. From going on a walk, to soaking up the sun, to enjoying the many beauties nature has to offer, it's all beneficial to a person's well-being. Reporter Maria Consbrook brings us a story of mental health and just how important it is to every now and then stop and enjoy the little things nature has to provide.
According to Mental Health America, 46% of Americans will meet the criteria for a diagnosable mental health condition sometime in their lifetime. This could mean that someone you know could very well struggle with a mental illness. Mental health is an important subject that needs to be addressed by every member of society. It is the state of well-being in a person, which is why it's so important for people to be aware of it. 1 in 4 young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 have a diagnosable mental illness, according to the National Alliance on Mental Health. 20-year-old junior Jessica Lundgren, attending Minnesota State University Moorhead, studying psychology, had her own personal experience with mental health.
I've struggled with bipolar and anxiety, PTSD, and eating disorders.
From her own personal experiences with mental health, she says she's inspired to help others experiencing the same.
I want to help them see the light at the end of the tunnel, that they are worth it, and even college-age students like us, you are worth it.
She has found different ways to help her cope when she feels herself slipping. These include
coping mechanisms and then self-care.
Not only does she use these, but she also finds that nature can help with her mental health.
One thing that's really big for me is I need big windows, or I need to be out in the sunlight, because if I don't, then I start feeling myself, like I feel myself slip.
Nate Bach, a mental health practitioner at UN Omaha Counseling and Psychological Services, agrees with this.
If we're outside and the sun is shining, our bodies will take in vitamin D from the sunlight. And vitamin D has a lot to do with our mental health.
When we see nature, chemicals in our brain such as dopamine and serotonin are released. Bach says it is because we are viewing something pleasurable. If we aren't in nature as much, this can take a toll on a person.
If we're not getting out and experiencing that stuff, then we're not really operating at our full potential.
One could experience nature by simply going on a walk, running, or sitting outside. Exercise is just as important for a person's mental health as is nature.
If our physical needs are not being met, it's going to affect our mental health needs as well.
There are other factors that can play a role in our mental health in addition to nature, such as spirituality and mindfulness.
Our spiritual sense is, it's there very much with nature. We've all been to a place where, in spirituality, in a very simple sense, is feeling like we're part of something bigger.
This is something Lindgren has personally experienced.
Something about nature. You have all of your senses engaged at once, which brings you into the present moment.
Nature allows for a person to do just this by the simple act of distracting, even if it is just for a moment.
I think it's the mindfulness. So mindfulness means being present with your surroundings and being in the here and now, and not worrying about the future and not worrying about the past.
The smallest of things, whether it be a flower, the sound of the rain, the feeling of the wind, the sun, or an animal, can pull someone out of their overwhelming thoughts.
If you see a butterfly flying off a flower and it takes you out of whatever it is that you're spinning on stress-wise, just for that little moment, you get a break.
Whether you are a seasoned professional or a student like Jessica, we know the state of a person's mental well-being doesn't discriminate. Both attribute to small daily doses of nature and how it can help boost positive mental health. With mental health an ongoing concern in today's society, especially with it being magnified this past year considering the pandemic, it is important to be aware of your own well-being. Nate and Jessica both say if you are struggling with emotional, psychological, or social well-being, be sure to get the help you need and remember to take care of yourself. You are not alone. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Maria Consbrook.
Maria Consbrook joins me live to share us more details regarding our well-being. Maria, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So where can a student find help on the UNO campus?
On campus, they can go to H&K in room 101, Counseling and Psychological Services, and it's open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. And you can also call the number, which is 402-554-2409, to schedule an appointment with one of those counselors.
So what should a student do for after hours?
If it's after hours, you can call that same number, which is 402-554-2409, and you press 2.
So, and what is the number to call in a mental health emergency?
In the case of a mental health emergency, you will call the number 1-800-273-8255.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Maria, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
That is Maria Consbrook. And Joey, just talking about just nature, I know that in my own personal experience, it's like sometimes you just have those moments where you need to get outside and just get a breath of fresh air, really.
And that's kind of the situation for me dealing with school this past year. Just a lot of work to do and facing the screens all day, probably 7 hours a day, just depends on your agenda. But yeah, every once in a while you just need to get out of your chair and just walk around the block just to clear your mind. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there's like places you could go hiking, like Schramm Park, Fontenelle Forest. Go across the bridge to Lake Manawa and just do some of that, or even go biking. Yeah, nature provides a lot of opportunities for you to clear your mind. And yeah, those contact information is very important if there's anyone experiencing mental health issues. You're just having depression, all that. I know COVID-19's been rough for a lot of people, and if you just want to be in a positive vibe and just improve your well-being, there's those contacts right there, and you always have a friend. Just remember that, Jacob.
Yep. And it's always just great to have friends by your side, and also those numbers that you can contact as well for anything that you need for mental health. So coming up, we're going to take a look at how Arbor Day Farm, the events that they are putting together for Earth Day, as well as how fast fashion plays a role in our environment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm.
Why, hello there. You're listening to Earth Day here on Mav Radio, KVNO 90.7 HD2, power with Mav Radio.
If you are looking for a place to travel, why not go take Kennedy Freeway south of Omaha to the Arbor Day Farm. Now, Earth Day is celebrated in April every year, and coincidentally, so is Arbor Day. Did you know that, Jacob?
Yeah, I was like, what a coincidence, huh?
Better yet, Arbor Day started right here in Nebraska City, and now it's celebrated worldwide. Reporter Faith Perrone gives us details about the specifics of the Arbor Day Farm located at the birthplace of this holiday.
Here's an important question. How does a tree get onto the internet? Easy answer. It logs on. This joke, as well as many other tree-related puns, can be found on the Arbor Day Foundation's official website, arborday.org. The celebration of trees is what this holiday is all about, and it all started right here in Nebraska. To test my fellow Nebraskans' knowledge, I asked UNO student Alexandra Espinoza about the basics of Arbor Day. Not surprisingly, she knew a great deal about our state holiday.
I feel like there's a museum for it in Nebraska City, but I don't remember any specific details besides that it's to promote planting trees.
Indeed, the Arbor Day Farm located in Nebraska City is a place for people of all ages to appreciate the large landscape it has to offer. To elaborate, this national landmark contains 260 acres of natural beauty and historic significance, as stated on the website arbordayfarm.org.
Then you walk outside and you have a 260-acre Arbor Day Farm property. So there's a great area to get out, spread out, get some fresh air.
Marketing strategist at the Arbor Day Farm, Connie Van Nostrand, oversees all of the marketing and advertising for the farm's attractions. This includes the Arbor Lodge Mansion, Tree Adventure, Lead Lodge, as well as the Apple House Market.
Really just looking for ways to let people know that we're there, what are the types of things we're doing, and hopefully encourage them to come to the farm and spend some time with us.
Get to know the detailed history of the farm, told by the farm itself, at the Arbor Lodge Mansion.
If you ever go to Arbor Lodge Mansion, you can do a self-guided tour. It's a 52-room mansion. It's where the Morton family came here from the East Coast, and they built the house and they raised their family there. And so it's got just a wonderful story to it.
Dive into nature for an up-close experience with the most popular attraction at the farm, Tree Adventure.
We have miles of walking trails there, some really fun outdoor interactive activities.
More specifically, Treetop Village was added in the fall of 2019 as part of the Tree Adventure. According to Van Nostrand, it is about 3 acres of amazing outdoor fun, which consists of 11 tree houses connected by netted bridges and more.
So you're up in the air, you're walking amongst the trees. Then there's also a big wonder net, which is kind of like a big trampoline. It's the first in North America, and you can get probably a dozen people on it at one time.
Van Nostrand says her very favorite activity at the farm is trekking the Conservation Trail, which is a one-way, 1.5 mile long path that goes from the west end of Lead Lodge to the golf course adjacent to the property called Arbor Links.
You could ride a bike on it if you want, you can walk it, you could run it, but it's so peaceful and just beautiful. You are back there and you feel like there's no one else in the world, and there's not a time when I haven't walked it where I haven't seen wildlife.
Coincidentally, the Arbor Day holiday occurs within the same month as Earth Day, and the farm has many different ways to celebrate their love for nature.
You know, every year is a little bit different on the property, but some of the things that remain the same. We always do a program for the kids on Friday on Arbor Day at the mansion.
that also includes activities outside of Nebraska City.
The whole Arbor Day Foundation, our team members often go out into the schools and talk to kids again, just to hopefully inspire them to learn more and to plant trees.
It's never too late to become a tree hugger.
But I feel like going for a walk would be a great way to enjoy Nebraska's trees, because I know Nebraska has a good variety.
For MavRadio, I'm Faith Perrone.
The Arbor Day Foundation is currently the largest nonprofit membership organization devoted to planting trees since 1972. According to its website, this foundation has planted more than 350 million trees all over the globe with the help of over 1 million members, partners, and supporters. The Arbor Day Farm is located at 2611 Arbor Avenue. Reporter Faith Perrone joins us now in Elmwood Park to give us more details about Arbor Day. Hello, Faith. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you mentioned in your story early on, you asked a UNO student if they've known anything about Arbor Day. What about you? Did you know anything about it before diving into this topic?
I knew just a little bit, just a scratch of the surface. I knew that it was in Nebraska City. I didn't know all the different fascinating areas they had and all the details they had about like tree adventure and all those things. So it really makes me want to go out there and check it out.
Yeah, and that's another place you could just go to and cope with your stress. Before you go, Faith, if you could leave with us one amazing fact about trees, what would it be?
I think it's really cool that there's over 60,000 different species of trees worldwide. So a lot of people would already know that trees give off oxygen and we take in that oxygen and then release carbon dioxide. But another cool thing is carbon dioxide is taken in by trees. So it's really cool how humans and trees have this relationship where we exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide and we work together to like keep this world moving. So I think that's a really cool fact.
Thank you, Faith, and you enjoy your Earth Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jacob. And I remember in the past, probably when during the pioneer days, they were calling the Western Nebraska like the Midwest desert because there was like no trees. They considered it as a desert, but there was just grasslands. There were the sand hills. There weren't a lot of trees until they planted a bunch. I know in northwest Nebraska, they had the Nebraska National Forest, and all of that was planted.
Yeah, that's amazing, though. And just kind of going back to what she said in her story, over 60,000 different species of trees. It's like, wow, that is awful lot, but just very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, how long would it take to name all of them, Jacob?
Well, let's see, 60,000 trees.
We got to do the math.
Yeah, my mind would probably hurt afterwards.
Yeah, I'd probably get a headache. Just take some ibuprofen and I'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. So everyone owns some of these products. You might even be wearing one of them right now. Products are known as fast fashion clothing and are widely known as the clothing you get from places like H&M and Forever 21. Reporter Madison Bonine explains to us not only what fast fashion is, but also how it hurts the environment.
You may not realize it, but every time you go to the mall and shop at stores like H&M, Forever 21, and Zara, you're contributing to what is known as fast fashion. If you're not familiar with what that term is, it's used to describe cheap, trendy clothing that is mass-produced. Owner of a Nebraska-based traveling boutique, Brick Road Boutique, Megan Berta, says it's a way for consumers to keep up with the ever-changing fashion trends in a cheap way.
A lot of places define fast fashion as a knockoff of the high-end fashions.
It's the goal of fashion companies to keep up with the current and ever-changing fashion trends by very quickly recreating a knockoff of high-end fashion products and getting them into the hands of consumers as quickly as possible. This, however, creates many problems like consumerism and environmental issues like lead, mercury, and arsenic residue from textile factories. These toxic chemicals seep or are sometimes literally dumped into the ecosystem, causing harm to both aquatic and human life. Another problem with fast fashion is the waste. Initially, the consumer is happy because they purchase a popular-looking product for a low price. In fact, they might buy 2 or 3 clothing items. Unfortunately, the speed and quality with which the clothes are made mean it probably won't last a single season. This means more waste on a cheap investment.
They're not very well made because the labor is very cheap, and so they're not going to last very long. So you definitely get what you pay for when it comes to clothing.
As far as the toxic chemicals, Megan says the fashion industry struggles greatly with being a big pollutant to the earth. This is very heavily increased when creating fast fashion products. When you use synthetic fibers to make fast fashion clothing items instead of natural fibers, you have to use chemicals to not only make them, but also dye them, so that puts off carbon emissions and pollutes the air. There's also a problem with wastewater runoff.
Like after clothes get dyed, that they just throw the wastewater into normal waterways that people drink out of, and then a bunch of people get sick.
That was soon-to-be fashion major and a thrifting connoisseur, Emma Bonin. Both Megan and Emma say there are many ways to avoid contributing to the world of fast fashion.
Investing in staple items, so things like jeans, pants, dress clothes. So spending a little bit more money on some of those pieces that are going to last for a couple of years, 3 to 4 years or more, and investing in those so then you don't have that turnover in your closet as quickly.
Along with purchasing staple items for your closet, you can do clothing swaps with your friends, buy clothes from Depop or Facebook Marketplace, and thrift. Getting into the thrifting scene can definitely be a daunting task, but Emma has plenty of tips to help get you started.
I would say that with anything, it takes a lot of practice, and you have to want to do it, I guess. And when you first start, you have to have patience and try to go through as much stuff as you can, because then the more that you see, the more likely you will find something you like.
Emma says that you have to see an item not for what it is, but what it could be, and just give thrifting your best effort, because in the long run, it's a fun hobby and can help put an end to fast fashion.
Thrift stores, Goodwill, anything vintage, vintage stores exist, and repurposing is a really good way to help with the consumerism.
I'm Madison Bonin from MavRadio.fm.
Megan and Emma both agree that fast fashion is a terribly made product that supports consumerism and creates environmental problems. While it can be hard to avoid sometimes, we should all try our hardest to use the alternatives and maybe even pick up a thrifting hobby. Reporter Madison Bonin joins me live to share more about fast fashion. Madison, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So what are some brands you can buy in your staple closet items from?
So Megan's boutique, Brick Road Boutique, carries a brand called Liverpool that she highly recommends, and their pants and tops can last around 4 years. And then you can also check out department stores like Von Maur, Dillard's, and Talbot to get some staples for your closet.
So where are some places to thrift in Omaha?
Honestly, there's a lot of places to thrift. I'm at one right now. I'm at 90th and Maple at a place called Thrift World. And if you just Google thrifting near me, there's over 15 results that come up in the Omaha area. So there's definitely lots of places and opportunities to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. So what do you say to people who have tried thrifting but think it's too hard?
I really think Emma said it best. You just have to give it your best effort and not give up. It gets easier and becomes more fun with more practice. And I would just tell them to not give up because it's worth it in the end.
Wise words, Madison. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
2021 has already brought a renewed sense of hope for people after last year. While we stay on that topic, thrifting has boomed in popularity within the past decade, saving people money and saving items from being wasted. MavRadio reporter Lewis Kirk gives us details on the benefits of thrifting for both the consumer and the environment.
Real talk here, the phrase another man's trash is another man's treasure does not even begin to cover how criminally underrated thrift stores are with the number of personal hidden gems to find. I personally found a pair of pink Converse in my size for only $6. Like, what are the chances? Just because someone thinks they can't make an outfit work at full price doesn't mean you can't at a reduced price. I spoke with Janelle Ellis, the Director of Retail Operations at Goodwill, about the benefits of thrifting.
You can save money while being fashion forward. So right now, the Gen Z love thrifting. It's fast fashion for them, as well as not being wasteful or harmful to the environment.
Thrift stores are a second chance for items to have a new home instead of just being thrown out. Generation Z plays a big part in the thrift market. For budgeting reasons, unique styles, or even art. As Brenda Harris, the store manager of the Goodwill at Benson Park Plaza, says,
The School of Arts
is now incorporating secondhand shopping and recycling into their curriculum. It helps the Gen Z realize that there is something here.
According to the BBC, in 2017, 85% of all cloth in the US is thrown away and go to landfills or are even burned. About 13 million tons of fabric is wasted. Unfortunately, some items just don't sell at the store. So what happens? Brenda explains what happens with some of the less popular items.
A lot of the donations that don't sell, we have a store where it gets a second time around. And things are sold there by the pound. And after the outlet store, then it's recycled.
This particular Goodwill recycles quite the load of unwanted materials, as said by Chantel Featherson, the retail district manager of Omaha Goodwills.
Well, in 2020, we recycled 2,731 tons of materials, 115 tons of metal, 40.25 tons of computers and electronics, 2,491 tons of clothing and textiles, 44.3 tons of paired shoes, and 39.7 tons of books, all recycled.
Thrift stores can get a wide range of donations from day to day. The Goodwill Benson Park Plaza receives between 80 to 150 donations every day, which is considered to be on the lower end. The number of donations is affected by the store's location and the demographics from the area that it's located in. Lower income neighborhoods are less likely to donate items than higher income neighborhoods. Goodwill shoppers have different reasons to thrift.
I enjoy thrifting because it's less expensive compared to retail stores, and you never know what you're going to find.
That's Amanda Wheeler, who often thrifts with others. On the other hand, we have Carlos Opico, who looks for personal treasures.
You're not just buying new clothes that is going to diminish and take away from the environment. Also, the individuality aspect, and it has a sense of nostalgia.
There's so much more to thrifting than we initially think. We save a lot in multiple ways that benefit everyone in every demographic. It's better to give unwanted things a second chance, because you never know who wants it. I'm Lewis Kirk from MavRadio.fm.
Every Goodwill has its own story. Early this April in Oklahoma, a Goodwill employee found $42,000 wrapped between sweaters. I can't believe that's a lot of money. Good money to keep. They were able to track down the owner and return the money. And Lewis Kirk joins me live from Goodwill. Lewis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right now. Great to be on the air.
Yeah, I got a curious question, Lewis. What are you wearing right now?
So right now my ensemble consists of a black Arizona overshirt with some white splatters on the back, a pink Aeropostale shirt, some black Rouge jeans, and some pink Converse, which you do not find very often.
Yeah, you got a good sense of fashion right there, Lewis. I'm wearing a nice little flowery polo from last year's Earth Day show for this special event. How much did you spend on the outfit versus its standard market value?
So the total outfit, I have to say, is less than $20 in total.
Wow.
Because the Arizona shirt that I have would normally go for retail at around $40. The Aeropostale on a $30. The black Rouge jeans that I have normally would go for like $40. And the pink Converse would normally go between $80 to $70.
Okay, Lewis, and I hear you got a guest with you today.
I do. I have the PR representative of the Goodwill at Benson Park Plaza, Amy Bolton, with me today.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing today?
Doing well. We've been having some fun in the store today. Picking out outfits and taking some photos that I think Lewis is going to post later.
Yeah, I got a quick question. What are some of the reasons to thrift?
To thrift? Well, sustainability is a really big reason right now. Just because all the fast fashion, it's clothing that doesn't last. And when you come to Goodwill, you can find those name brands, the really good quality clothing. And it's just recycling, essentially. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons to do it.
And what do you feel going through at a Goodwill right now?
Our stores support our mission programs, which provide education and training for people in the community, and then we also provide job placement services to help them find jobs, long-term jobs. So I think a lot of people don't realize that when they donate to Goodwill, we sell those goods, and then that money supports these programs. So that's kind of what we're all about and what we've got going on.
All right, and thank you for joining us for this Earth Day special.
My pleasure.
And Lewis, you still there?
Yep.
Hey, before you go, why do you thrift?
Why do I thrift?
Yeah.
Well, you can find all sorts of treasures here, either from like a blast from the past, or you find like new modern goods here every once in a while. And you're just like, I'm getting this at a steal. Like, my outfit would be like almost $200 at retail price, but here at Goodwill, I got it for like a tenth of a price.
Yeah, and it's very convenient to go in there as well. Thank you, Lewis, for joining me live for this Earth Day special. You enjoy the rest of your day. Find me some perfect clothes for the future.
I will.
Thank you.
No problem, Joey.
You take care. Yeah, thrifting. I remember going to Goodwill all the time with my family, just donating a bunch of clothes we don't need or just other things. And yeah, you could just, when you go in there, you'll just find some unique items, clothing. It helps a lot of people. It's just an easy way route to just get some clothes.
Yeah, and find $42,000.
Yeah, find $42,000. And right now we are going to let our producer, Pauline DeLange, give her pitch on fast fashion. So what are your thoughts, Pauline, on just thrifting in general and fast fashion?
That is an interesting question, Joey. Well, for fast fashion, it's a really large topic. It's really trendy right now. Unfortunately, I don't want it to be just trendy, but fast fashion is a really big problem, and it doesn't solely just it goes beyond just synthetic fibers and recycling and landfill full of unwanted clothes. It goes into like social issues and social classes. You know, some people, all they could really afford is just fast fashion. So we have to look at this idea of sustainability, because sustainability, really, it's branded as a good thing, but then it's only really just for the 1% if you think about it. So
going to Goodwill and just other places where you could thrift, there's a lot of items to get there as well. Jacob, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of just staggering, some of the numbers that he threw out there, like how much they recycle, that Goodwill does, and then also just some of the bargain deals that you can get just for a lot of the clothes that you buy at retail stores like at the mall. You know, just really great deals that you can find.
Coming up next, we are going to go over natural vitamins and supplements. We are transitioning from clothes to food, healthy eating. So we got natural vitamins and supplements from reporter Sean Anderson, who will be at Boys Town shortly to give us his report. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm.
You're listening to Mav Radio's award-winning Earth Day event. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more ways to help and appreciate the environment.
Welcome back to Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm. Pharmaceuticals are a multi-billion-dollar business, and a portion of some of those billions are the supplement industry. From Flintstone vitamins to weight loss and focus pills, supplements have grown and have new meanings in different forms. Are people viewing and using these things properly with how they are marketed? Sean Anderson reports.
10 million kids are getting all the vitamins they need to help them grow with Flintstones.
So let's eat smart.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
More protein. We need energy.
Growing up, nutrition ads and cartoon PSAs taught us about maintaining fitness, such as running on a treadmill and eating right. But as time progressed, supplements are being added to people's health regimen. Well, what's the importance of supplements? According to the Washington Post, Americans spend up towards $35 billion a year on various types of supplements and things within that range. But why? From blog posts on the internet to the Washington Post and even the National Institute of Health Directors blog, supplements have been cited that they are ineffective. But from many doctors and even people's personal testimonies, they are effective. What is the real situation behind this? What's the importance of taking supplements? Well, let's go find out. Unfortunately, with still being in the midst of COVID, a few policy changes and changes in general in society, the interviews were done over the phone with Dr. Luke Susker of Des Moines, Iowa, and Dr. J.J. Gums, practicing at Blue Cross Blue Shield in Omaha, Nebraska. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Things are going well. Once again, sorry we couldn't meet in person. Hopefully everything on your side is safe. But I just got a few questions for you. To start off, what are some things you've learned about supplements, natural supplements, and just regarding your health, taking those things or just experimenting?
Sure. So, when it comes to supplementation, the word supplement, I feel like in society has really kind of shifted to mean things that you put into your body that are supposed to provide some kind of specific enhancement. And I think that the term has become a little bit skewed. Whereas really, if you look at the word, the base word itself, supplement, it is meant to be supplementary to the regular nutrition that you're not getting from food. Over time, the way that we've done farming and growing certain crops, some of the soil has been more nutrient depleted compared to how rich in nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and things like that we used to get from just regular food that grows in the ground. Plus, we've modified our diets now where things are more artificial, and we eat things that are more processed, which strips out a lot of that nutrient-dense nature of what food used to be. So, basically, the standard American diet lacks a lot of those vitamins and minerals that our body needs a certain amount to function at a baseline. So what a supplement should do is just kind of cover what you're not getting from food naturally. So there's really only a handful of supplements that you might want. Things like a multivitamin or an omega-3, things like that. But a lot of times in the market, you'll see things like fat burners, or you'll see things like branched chain amino acid things, or excess caffeine, or pre-workout. Those things are different. They're a different focused thing. Like if it's meant to give you a hit of energy walking into the gym, that's a different animal. That's like a performance enhancer. Whereas in my mind, if it is truly a supplement, what you're really looking at is something that's meant to get you back to a baseline of nutrition that's based on what your body needs at the minimum to function properly.
So, is it that companies are capitalizing off the growing market of supplements? Or people just aren't consuming them and doing the work to make everything work? The push of physical health at a rapid rate and the lack of education on nutrition is a very big issue, not only in the US, but in the world. Talking to Dr. Gums and even expanding on the different things society offers, especially with online, he has this to say about different things that people see from online.
People do tend to overcomplicate things, and it's not your fault. It's not the consumer's fault. I mean, there's so much out there on Instagram and Facebook about these supplements, that supplements, but it really is quite simple. When you break it down, if you eat a balanced diet, you're going to be fine. You're going to be really good, and the supplements are minimal. If you have specific problems and specific symptoms, that's going to change. There might be some other specific supplements that you might benefit from, but for the most part, if you can at least get some balance in there, you should be good, and a multivitamin should help you cover all your bases.
With a billion-dollar business and hundreds of supplement companies, are they truly worth it? The answer? Yes and no. If you don't put in the work with what you're taking, things won't be as effective. On the other side, it can keep you in the right direction. The question is, will you be investing in supplemental treatment? Will you be investing in your health? For MavRadio, I'm Sean Henderson.
There are many resources and supplements that a person can take to advance their physical performance, mental performance, and health. Consulting a physician, specialist, and even staff at the Hyper Building at the University of Nebraska-Omaha will get you on the right track with implementing supplements in your routine. Reporter Sean Anderson joins me live to tell us more. How are you doing, Sean?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So what caused you to look into doing this type of topic?
Honestly, just the pandemic, looking at my own health and taking time to learn about different supplements and just different things to improve my health. So all thanks to the pandemic, really.
So with it being a big business, how are you able to pick up the right one with the many brands?
Honestly, just researching and seeing what is right for me and what I can personally enjoy.
And before you go, what are some things that it helped with, especially during COVID?
Honestly, a lot of it just comes from not wanting to get sick. I started taking vitamin C due to allergies and not wanting to deal with that during that time, but also with physical training led to wanting to know further about what comes in this topic or anything like that. So just making sure treating it as an important topic.
All right, great stuff, Sean. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. And just a very interesting topic there.
Yeah,
right,
very,
Joey?
very interesting. I have allergy issues. I might consider taking some vitamins myself. I've been taking some stuff. But yeah, it's good, very informative on that part.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up, we're going to take a break, and we're going to look at the pros and cons of organic food, as well as self-improvement and healthy habits. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to Earth Day 2021 here on MavRadio.fm.
You are listening to the Earth Day broadcast with MavRadio.
I took a bite of the apple, and it tastes like down. I took a bite.
While we stay on the topic of food, COVID-19 has taken so many things from people from the last year. For so many people, they had to change their whole lives. Some people even changed their eating habits. During quarantine, some people had to change their diet to stay healthy. But what is healthy eating, and what are the pros to eating healthy? Reporter Lillian T. Meyer explains the pros of healthy eating and how to balance your eating habits.
Picture this, you are in your kitchen about to have a snack, and when you open your cabinets you see two choices, an apple and a bag of potato chips. Which do you choose? Most likely you would choose the bag of potato chips. Why not go for the apple? What would the benefits be from eating the apple versus the bag of potato chips? Skylar Brooke is the Assistant Director of Strength, Conditioning, and Fitness at the Health and Kinesiology Department at UNL. He has studied the ways and benefits of eating healthy and its impact on people's wellness.
The immediate answer is, it's going to help me maintain my weight, it's going to help me lose weight. But I think most importantly, if you're eating a well-balanced, healthy meal, you're going to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat feeling good. You don't even realize you feel good until you feel bad.
Yeah.
Or you get sick. Okay, so it's going to make you feel good over the course of a whole day.
According to an article by Everyday Health, it states that food choices affect mental health. Study reports state that a diet rich in vitamins and minerals is associated with a lower risk for mental health disorders, including anxiety and depression. The article also states that a healthy diet can help prevent diseases, with poor nutrition and lack of exercise could cause chronic disease, including heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. UNO student-athlete alum Emily Bailing has changed her diet to become more healthier after her years as a student-athlete at UNO.
Long-term benefits too. I know the leading causes of death in the United States are, chronic diseases like heart disease and also type 2 diabetes, which both can be prevented just from eating healthy and eating whole foods.
According to a Healthline article published in 2017, the number one cause of death in the United States is from heart disease. Around 635,000 people die of heart disease per year. Society has put a label that eating organic food will lead to a healthier diet.
Picking organic fruit versus regular fruit that you would see at the store, or organic meat that you'd find at the store versus regular, there's not a whole lot of difference nutrition-wise.
Although in a poll conducted in 2011 by NPR, Thomson Reuters found that 58% of Americans prefer organic foods because of the support for farmers markets, no toxins, and the taste. According to Emily, that is not the reason for her not using organic foods.
Just from a cost standpoint, organic foods are a lot more expensive.
Emily also knows that some foods do not look how they usually look, hence for another reason why she does not use organic foods.
I know a lot of fruits and vegetables are genetically modified, so that's why strawberries are a lot bigger, but I think that even just eating whole foods, whether they're organic or not, I don't think that there's really a big difference because you're still getting the same essential vitamins and minerals.
For most healthy diets, people think they need to cut out sugars in order to have a healthy diet. Humans need to have the necessary amount of sugars to sustain a healthy diet. Cutting out all sugars is not a healthy option for humans.
Added sugars, we want to avoid as much as possible. The best time to have added sugars, right before exercise, right after exercise. So if we have it right before exercise, that's when our body demands to have that sugar so we can have a good output of energy during that competition, during that workout. And then afterwards, our body is depleted from those sugars that are in our body. So having things like, candy or that yogurt that I described that has a lot of sugar content right after exercise can actually be fairly beneficial.
This does not mean that constantly eating candy or added sugars will make a healthy diet.
So I don't think it's good to eliminate it completely. I think kind of like anything nutrition, it's really important to have balance. So I think if you were to say, I'm not going to have any sugar ever again, I think at some point you're going to be craving sugar. Just as humans, we really crave sugary foods.
With keeping a balanced diet with the healthy foods and unhealthy food, it is okay to have a cheat day every once in a while, as long as you know how to get back on track. It is one thing to have a cheat day once a week than going back to your diet, but a cheat day without getting back on track will cause imbalances in your diet.
So I think just like anything, anything in moderation, and just making sure that you're not overdoing it on sugar, but if you overdo it one day, just get back on track the next day.
But with all the balances in your diet, how much should you eat in a day to stay healthy? The normal amount that people are familiar with is having a breakfast, then lunch, then dinner with a snack in between. For some people, keeping that track allows them to be able to eat enough for a day, and for other people, they need more or less meals in a day. It all depends on who you are as a person and how much you can eat.
It's different for everybody. I mean, if you work a job that doesn't allow you to take a long lunch or take frequent breaks, how are you going to eat? Okay, so you don't really have that option. So some people can get away with doing breakfast, not eating again until 2 o'clock, and then eating again at 6 or 7. But what if you exercise at 6 a.m.? When do you eat breakfast? And what if you exercise at 8 p.m.? Is dinner too close to that? So it all depends on your lifestyle. When do you work? When do you exercise? What availability to food do you have?
Eating a good amount of meals per day can help you gain a healthier lifestyle. Depending on the person and what they do in a day can depend on the amount of meals and food they have. As long as it maintains a healthy style of balanced foods and nutrition, a healthy diet will make many people a lot healthier. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Lillian T. Meyer.
You can start a healthy diet anytime. It all starts with going to the grocery store and picking those healthy options. Whole foods Regency Circle near West Roads Mall is a great place to start and find fresh produce and great options to start a healthy eating diet. You can go there anytime, any day during the week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Our reporter Lillian T. Meyer joins us there right now. Lillian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Tell us about your location at Whole Foods and what's going on there.
Right now I'm just standing outside of Whole Foods, and it's a really crowded Tuesday morning. Lots of people here, and yeah, I was getting ready to shop for their healthy eating.
And how has Whole Foods adapted to COVID-19?
Well, for starters, you have to walk into the store wearing your mask, of course. And when you go inside, there's 2 areas where you can get your carts, one with clean carts, one without, clean carts that are used, that are always being sprayed down with like disinfectant, sorry. And yeah, and then with the food there too, there's always like the employees that are always wearing like gloves and masks on top of that, and always making sure that all of their food in the store is always being safe and healthy, of course.
Yeah, and I worked at a grocery store for a few years, and when the pandemic started, we kind of transitioned to that safety mode, wearing the mask and just cleaning everything down. So I'm kind of understand how they are adapted to that new environment. What are some options that people can purchase while at the store for their healthy eating?
Well, for one, Whole Foods has their own brand of, like their own store brand of very natural and organic foods that people can buy. And for someone like me who really enjoys that brand, I always look at the ingredients, and there's never really any sort of chemicals that are being used. And just for starters, if you want to start like a healthy diet, you for sure want to start with like all natural foods, along with like shopping for fresh produce and fresh meats, of course, as well, will help you start with a healthy diet.
And now let's talk about you. How have you incorporated healthy eating into your life?
Well, first of all, I am a student athlete here at UNL. I play tennis, and healthy eating is a big factor when it comes to my athletic performances. And with healthy eating, I always try to keep a good amount of food a day, eat a good amount of food, sorry. And I always try to incorporate all my fruits and vegetables, and then on top of that, I try to get the right amount of protein each day, along with like carbs and different natural like grams of, like a reasonable amount of sugar and like proteins, and yeah, just make sure I have the right amount of different food groups for each of my meals that I have a day.
And now before you go, Lillian, why is it important to start shopping for healthy foods?
Well, if you want to start a healthy diet, you should first start with having healthy food, of course. And it all starts with just like going out to the grocery store and like going through the aisles and seeing what you should buy and what you shouldn't buy. Like if you went to Whole Foods and you go towards the bakery area versus the fruit area, you should probably start with the fruit area, because that's where you're going to start with your healthy diet, versus if you're going to go over to the bakery items, that's not going to really help with your healthy diet.
Well, thank you, Lillian, for sharing your thoughts, and yeah, get some healthy food. I'm going to need some. I'm very hungry. You take care, Lillian.
Thank you so much.
I'm kind of hungry, Jacob. How
I
about
am
you?
too, yeah.
Yeah, you remember a few days ago we had some lunch before just getting everything ready for Earth Day, and man, just the amount of food you were eating. You had like 2 burritos and a chimichanga, 2 sides of rice and beans.
I mean, what can I say? When a man's got to eat, a man's got to eat.
Yeah, that just sounds good right now. But yeah, starting to eat healthy. Yeah, there's just a lot of options to go by. Yeah, going to Whole Foods and then even the farmers market as well, Jacob.
Yeah, so not only does eating an apple a day keep the doctor away, they say, but eating healthier in general keeps our earth healthy as well. Reporter Nicholas Perry takes us through the ways you can eat healthy to not only keep you healthy, but also to keep the earth healthy as well.
It's another day and you're hungry as usual. Today you might go to the store and grab a packaged meal or just hit a drive-thru. You may not even realize, but not only are you using the carbon to get there, but also the harmful practices on these preparations for these meals as well. Hannah Rayon is a farm-to-school coordinator from the Food and Health Network of South Central New York. She has been working there for some time, consisting of working to build food-secure communities and a thriving, healthy, regional food system through collaboration.
The environment aspect of it, especially with the fact of local, there's less carbon emissions, you yourself are going to have less of a carbon footprint if you're sourcing your food more locally.
This is great wrapping up National Nutrition Month in March, but that doesn't have to stop you from practicing eating healthier meals that are both well for you and the environment. The 4 weeks include a variety of choosing healthier meals, fresh ingredients, drinking water, and much more that'll improve you and the Earth's health. Processed food consists of packaging and the carbon process, keeping them intrigued for buyers to purchase harmful chemicals and long-lasting shelf life even though they may not look like that in any way. But don't let that confuse you from the real truth.
Those processing, they need other additives to make it last that long for shelf life. We're now finding okay, what are these actually doing to our bodies, right? Growth hormones, antibiotics. These are all things that I think over time we're we don't really know the effects of these on our bodies. And having that more fresh food is definitely another route for that, I would say.
Wonder Bread, for example, during the 1950s was a bread that looked and tasted great and had a craze that it had a longer shelf life. Hannah says while it might sound appealing, but in reality, the harmful hormones and antibiotics to make the Wonder Bread like that are hurting the earth as well as hurting you.
It's those things that you pull out from your cupboard and you see they're 2-3 years past the expiration date and they still look fine. That kind of questions why do they look fine, just having more fresh.
Those foods stored in the cupboard may look fine, but Hannah mentions that unfortunately it is not healthy for you as a person or the earth and makes you question why would anybody want to buy that kind of food to hurt themselves and the planet. When it comes down to recycling from these products, according to recyclingtoday.com, more than half, 52% of Americans feel they don't have access to recycling, causing more fill-ups at landfills and potential litter to happen. Galen Rose, a health enthusiast for over 10 years and working with friends and family to stay fit and eating well for themselves and the environment.
Also, you eat probably more natural foods that are healthier, and that's better for the environment because they're more biodegradable than say, a plastic cup or something that would have processed food in it.
Galen recommends eating healthier and be mindful of the wrapping in which a banana peel is biodegradable versus banana bread made in a factory. Another great push to get people to eat healthier, fresh, and natural foods that are grown from the environment that are both good for you and the earth. What are some more natural, healthier, and fresh foods to eat over processed and drive-thru wise?
Natural things like apples and oranges and things like that. Fruits, vegetables.
Everyone can make these healthy choices of food for you and the environment by doing some research and looking at the labels of food. You don't need any sort of dietitian knowledge or anything super, just some reading and looking at the products while trusting your gut.
Just going with the things that you know where it came from, you know how it was processed, and there's not those question signs when you pull something out of your cupboard. I don't even know the beginning process of how this would be made. Ask those questions and you'll start seeing the things that you stop putting into your mouth,
Remember to consider buying fresh and local foods as they will both benefit you and the earth by leaving less carbon footprints on the earth and less bad antibiotics in your body.
They're things that affect everyone. The environment affects everyone. Food affects everyone. And you can't really escape it.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Nicholas Perry.
More information can be found on foodandhealthnetwork.org for their goals and mission statements, as well as their programs in healthier foods, bettering people as well as the earth. Our reporter Nicholas Perry joins us at a local farmers market held at Bayless Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa, where the farmers market is held every Thursday from 4:30 to 7:30 through September 24th. Nicholas, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. So how is eating healthier better for the earth?
Just taking those less carbon footprints to get your foods, any way you can, and that processing for the package as well that is also damaging in ways and can hurt the earth and as well as you as those things that are not good for you, like the antibiotics and stuff they use in that food.
So what are some foods you recommend people stay away from that doesn't better themselves or the earth?
Just some stuff like a lot of processed packaged foods, things you can buy and like any sort of that comes in even more packaging and stuff, sometimes they're recyclable, but sometimes it just, you can get littered and just tossed out and stuff like that. But the less packaging, the better, so just the fruits you can get, shopping outside the aisles, just like the fruits and the vegetables and that good stuff that you can for you.
So what are some foods and practices you recommend that are healthy for the consumer and the earth?
Maybe for a local farmer's market, you can just walk down, for me, for example, in Iowa down here, the Bayless Park, it's probably only a mile walk. So not only is it not taking a car down here, but we could come down and grab a grocery bag or something like that with us, that we have that we used to recycle instead of using plastic bags, and come down and just buy some local farmers market food and stuff like that they're just trying to help us keep the community fresh and healthy in any ways like that they can.
So how are fast foods and processed foods harmful in ways for people and the earth?
A lot of it is just the things they use in preservatives and stuff like that they use in it. It's very dangerous for you, and some would say this is not even really just real food. Really, it's just chemicals and so processed to the point that it's just very unhealthy for you. And those are also harmful to the environment as well, just because the things and how they get them in the processes that you use, the carbon that they use to get that and process it is, it's the double negative that's hurting you and the earth.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon, Nicholas. I hope you have a great rest of your Earth Day.
Thank you. You guys too.
Oh my goodness, I'm just getting hungry after I was about to say eating, hearing all these stories on just healthy habits, eating, and just all that in general, Jacob.
I mean, it makes your mouth water, to be quite honest.
Yeah, oh yeah. And with that being said, this is the end of the 2021 Earth Day show. And before we end things off, I want to give my thoughts. Since doing last year, this was absolutely different, just doing it on Zoom through screen. And now we're just talking to each other in the studio this year through our microphones and through the telephone from the studio. This was absolutely a great experience for me. And share with me your thoughts, Jacob, on just Earth Day.
I mean, it's great to be here, like in an actual live studio. As you said, it's different from the environment that you had last year, but I just enjoyed getting to talk to all these different reporters, hearing all the different great information that they had to offer on how we can better the earth, what things are harmful to the earth, but and just how we can better ourselves and the earth overall. So just really great stuff.
And I want to give a shout out to our amazing producer, Pauline Dulang. Pauline, share me your thoughts on your first Earth Day experience.
Oh yeah, this was super fun, great learning experience. Not only did I get to connect with my peers here at MavRadio and touch the board a bit, but learned a bit about Earth Day, Earth stuff all around, and just our relationship with nature, how important that is.
And also want to give a great shout out to the professor involved with this show, Jodine Brownlee, getting these 14 student reporters on the air. All the students have amazing stories to share throughout this Earth Day special. And also they have their podcast online, I think at Libsyn. But yeah, feel free. Go ahead and check out their podcast. They are fun to listen to. And also hit up the follow button on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are updating you everything going on around Omaha, whether it's sports, entertainment, or even music. And from me at MavRadio, Jacob Timian, and Pauline Dulang, we all want to say thank you for tuning in to 2021 Earth Day.
Thanks for listening to Earth Day 2021.